Well, Todd, do you want to get started? Because there will be people joining us throughout the whole thing.
That sounds good. So I'll start by just saying thank you guys, everybody, for coming. I see 58 participants, and I think that is amazing and just a testament to Dean and who Dean is and who Dean was. And I just welcome everybody to this celebration of Dean's life. I'm humbled to be a part of it and honored to be a part of it. I'm going to apologize if I butcher your name. I'm really bad with that. I'm going to try my best. But I guess we have an opening prayer by faith.
Thank you, Todd. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I also am humbled and appreciative, Arlyce, of having this chance to be a part of the program. I'm going to read a section of scripture, offer a prayer, and then a few tribute comments from me. Our scripture today is from 2 Corinthians 1:3-4. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in our troubles so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. Please join me in this prayer. Lord God, we know with assurance that you hear and you care about every single spoken and unspoken prayer, as well as the prayers today that slips down our cheeks as silent tears. We place our trust in you, O God, and your perfect love for us. We know that praying with a humble heart that's surrendered to and dependent on you is always the right way to pray. In Jesus' name, amen. So let me open with my tribute to Dean. I'm Dean's aunt through marriage. And over the past several years, he and I talked very regularly for hours and hours and hours on a phone after he moved to Milwaukee. No topics were off the list. So, of course, we talked about his life, the highs, the lows, the opportunities, the expectations, and his hopes. And, you know, Dean continued to have hope. The best word that I can really use to describe Dean is love. And I put it in bold letters, L-O-V-E. Dean was one of those fortunate people. He was born with that basic loving personality. He had a ready smile. He had an inner desire to offer a helping hand, and especially the desire to care for family and friends. And I'm sure that friends on the line here will be able to tell you that he never met an enemy. But most importantly, Dean had 3 lifetime loves. 3 lifetime loves. Their names are Jocelyn, Madeline, and Mya. He spent endless hours talking about each one, their interests, their lives. He described the father-daughter relationship he hoped to have with them one day. He wanted to make sure that his daughters knew how much he loved them. And I want them to know that today. Dean loved giving gifts. Jocelyn, I remember the excitement that he had about giving you a saddle, and he went into detail about what a fine horse rider you were. Girls, he treasured your smiles, he treasured your hugs, your stories, and those 3 magic words, I love you. Those were the things that made your father happy. Yes, Dean also had life struggles, and he wondered if his life mattered at times. And just like the rest of us, Dean fought many dragons in life. Using dragons as an analogy, I use to acknowledge that life is filled with dragons. For anyone, it can be a life-threatening illness, a sudden job loss, failed marriage, loss of a parent, depression, anxiety. These dragons are some of the dangers and frailties of life that we're inadequate to fight alone. The moment we realize that the dragons of our life are too big for us is the moment we can begin to rest in Christ's rescue of salvation. So I ask you something Dean wondered. Did Dean's life matter? You may be saying, does my life matter? The answer is absolutely yes. Dean mattered, and so do all of you. We matter because we are deeply and eternally loved by the God who made us. Dean knew God's love for him. While he was in jail, he asked Jesus into his heart, and he sought the forgiveness and personal relationship of faith that identifies with Christ, God's perfect love through his Son. So though our lives are short, they're not meaningless. We each have that opportunity to leave a legacy of faith, demonstrating God's love. And regardless of how much time, whether long or short, we have here on earth, our lives are transient. We're made in God's image, and we're moving towards eternity. Because Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead, we'll live forever if we have accepted Christ's offer of forgiveness and salvation. Dean trusted that the God of the mountains is also the God of the valley. Dean knew that God had planned a better future. And that's what Moses prayed in Psalm 90. Lord, through all the generations, you have been our home. Before the mountains were born, before you gave birth to the earth and the world, from beginning to end, you are God. Satisfy us each morning with your unfailing love, so we may sing for joy to the end of our lives. So today, we celebrate Dean's life. We celebrate his love for each of you. We give thanks that, like Dean, we can know the assurance and salvation through Jesus Christ. Back to you, Todd. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Now we're going to have the eulogy by Scot Vogel, Dean's brother.
Dean Jerome Vogel was born October 19th, 1971. He was 48 years old, lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and he passed away September 27th, 2020, while visiting his aunt and uncle in Duluth, Minnesota. Dean was born in Wheaton, Minnesota, October 19, 1971. He lived there until he was 5 years old. He and his family moved to Pierre, South Dakota, where he lived until graduating from high school. Dean graduated from Black Hills State University in 1997 with a degree in banking and finance. He held positions in Flandreau, South Dakota, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Brookings, South Dakota, and Mequon, Wisconsin. Dean loved anything with a motor, especially if it went fast. He loved watching baseball, Milwaukee Brewers games, the Bucks basketball team, the Green Bay Packers. He loved riding his touring bike in the summer. He liked wearing nice clothes, but most of all, as stated earlier, he loved his He loved his three daughters, Jocelyn, 17, Madeline, 14, and Mya, 12. They were his shining stars and his reasons for living. In addition to his three daughters, Dean is survived by his mother, Arlyce Vogel, a brother, Scot Vogel, Scot's wife, Allison, nephew, Scot Jr., niece, Samantha, 5 aunts, 4 uncles, and 13 cousins. Dean was preceded in death by his father, Howard Vogel Jr., and his 4 grandparents. Dean's father died on December 6, 1982, and Dean's ashes will be spread on Howard's grave December 6th, 2020. And that's the end of the eulogy.
Thank you, Scott. Now we're going to have a poem reading by Dolores Weiss. This is Dean's aunt and Howard's sister. Is Dolores with us?
Mute. Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can now. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Dean's Aunt Dolores, and these are just a few of my remembrances of Dean. He was always a mild-mannered young man with a twinkle in his bright eyes, and as a young college student, he always dressed very fashionable. And Scott mentioned that too. He looked just like he had emerged from Gentleman's Quarterly. For you young people that don't know, that was a man's fashion magazine. We all had great times together as the Nasons, Keelers, and Vogels celebrated Christmas in Candu with the big extended families. The Vogels had their own store, so they were not there as long or as frequently as some of the rest of us. But Dean was a novelty of sorts because he was the youngest cousin. And one thing I remember with fond memories, not so much then, is I can imagine how his eyes widened as a pillow fight ensued at Grandma's basements and the feathers flew all over. I know how proud he was, and this has been mentioned many times, how proud he was of his 3 beautiful daughters and always described them definitively. And they can never doubt his love for them. The last time we had the pleasure of visiting with Dean was 3 years ago in our home in Prospect Heights, Illinois for Thanksgiving. And these memories we are thankful for. And this is the poem that I have. If tears could build a stairway, if tears could build a stairway and memories were a lane, we would walk right up to heaven and bring you back again. No farewell words were ever spoken, no time to say goodbye. You were gone before we knew it, and only God knows why. Our hearts still ache in sadness, and secret tears still flow. What it means to lose you, no one will ever know. But now we know you want us to mourn for you no more, to remember all the happy times. Life still has much in store. Since you'll never be forgotten, we pledge to you today, a hallowed place in our hearts is where you'll always stay. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Now we're going to hear some of the life tributes. We'll start with Lori Keeler, Dean's aunt and Howard's sister. Can Lori hear us?
Okay, now can you hear me? See? Okay. Greetings to all of you. My memories of Dean go back, as my sister said, to a Christmas at the Vogels. This was his very first Christmas. Dean was about 2 months old. And as I recall, Dean really liked to be rocked. And I really liked to rock babies. So we got along well. We rocked a lot that Christmas. Then I remember Dean was about 7 years old, I think about 7, the first time he came and spent the summer at our cabin. And Dean shared a bedroom in a small bedroom with 2 sets of bunk beds with my 3 boys. He had a little shelf where he would keep his things. And Dean was very sweet, very happy, thoughtful, and very neat. Dean had his shelf where he would organize, arrange, and rearrange the things he brought from home many times. He seemed to follow the boys around. They were much older than he, but he didn't seem to mind. He always seemed to have a big smile. Then one time, Dean, Stephanie, and the girls, his girls were very young at this time, came to stay with us in Two Harbors. It was obvious how much he loved, enjoyed, and doted on those 3 girls as he played with them. Then I was very surprised when Dean called me on September 14th and said, "I'm coming to visit you, Aunt Lorraine." I was very pleased and very surprised. So he arrived on Friday, September 18th. Jeff and Elsa came over for dinner that night and we had pizza. And Dean was having trouble, I thought, with cutting the pizza with his fork. So I said, "Dean, you can use your fingers." And Dean said, "No, I don't want to get my fingers dirty." And I thought, that's Dean, but I never heard that before. So that was a surprise to me. But anyway, we had a wonderful, wonderful few days together. Dean wanted to go up to the cabin, so we did, and we spent the afternoon there. He wanted to go down to Breakwater where the ore boats come in. So we spent a day there and had our picture taken together. Dean was thoughtful as he spoke about his long journey, his support from his mom, his friends, and his brothers. But mostly his focus was on 3 beautiful daughters, Jocelyn, Madeline, and Mya. He talked about your interests, your good grades, and how proud he was of you. He left me with 2 beautiful graduation pictures of you, Jocelyn, and one of them was with your horse. Dean was looking forward to getting a new job and seemed optimistic about his future. Little did I know that after all these years, I would be one of the last people Dean would see. And we couldn't even hug due to COVID. So I thank you for this chance to share some thoughts about Dean.
Okay, and now we're going to hear from Judy and Mark Gerwatz, aunt and uncle, Arlyce's sister and brother-in-law.
Mark, do you want to start? Oh, I guess I'll start here. I think Mark's coming in. We had to be in different rooms because of the feedback. So back in 1972, I had to give a speech, and I was writing the speech the morning of, well, here I was writing notes about a half hour ago. Sorry if this is unorganized. First of all, I want to say something about, I was always concerned because I knew Arlyce and Dean, it had been hard living together. But one day Dean told me when he was here 3 weeks ago or so, he said, she really has a good heart. And that heartened me so much to realize the gratitude that he really had, because, I knew there were difficulties, but he was very appreciative. And that's the feeling I got here. We fed him. He enjoyed, in fact, Mark and I are paying tribute to him tonight. We had a Sammy's pizza. He said I didn't know he had pizza up in Two Harbors too, but he was so grateful. He wanted the leftovers the next night. So I got him his own hot personal pan pizza from Sammy's Pizza. And he said, "This makes me so happy." Just gratitude is all I felt from him. A memory I have is, I think must have been about 1974. So one summer I went to Wheaton while Arlyce and Howard were doing inventory. They wanted me to watch the boys for about a week. And, Scot was more often his own, but Dean was little, I think maybe about 2 years old, and such warm, warm hugs I got from that little boy. Scott too, but he was older, as I said, and off on his own a little more. I remember in high school and college when they'd come home to Napoleon to visit mom and dad. He just adored my mom. And I tell you, when I found him gone, I went to wake him up that Sunday morning to take off for Milwaukee, and he was gone. And I think he might have still been in there before the sheriff's department came. And I remember saying, Mom, please welcome him, because I know he is, I mean, she loved that little boy, a 48-year-old little boy. And it just comforted me a lot to know who was there to welcome him. I realized how many friends he had. He was talking about them, calling them, texting them all week. We just had a really good time. He seemed really relaxed and at peace, and enjoyed being with Mark, my husband. I'll let him tell you a few things, but I'm going to miss him. I think most of us wanted to see him have his better future here on Earth, but that's only for our eyes and our feelings. He doesn't care anymore. He's where he needs to be at the most peace we could have ever hoped for him. And that's what we all wanted, was just for him to be at peace with his life. I'll let Mark talk here.
Well, hi. I don't know what to say, other than he was an easygoing guy. Him and I got along real good. When he was here, we just kind of hung out. We didn't go anywhere in particular, but he looked like he was having a good time, and that's all I cared about. I wanted him to be here and relax, and that's what he was doing. So he wasn't, he was having a genuine time, and that's all I care about. If the good Lord took him away,
I'll finish up here. I got to tell you, this has been hard on us. We have some real feelings, but I said, rather than feeling so bad that what did we miss here, I think we should feel honored that he died here with us, relaxed and at peace, and having had a good time, and knowing he loved both of us. One thing I wanted to say, Mark let him drive his Mustang. And I did ask at one point, Dean, are you supposed to drive anyone else's vehicle? And he said to me, now you had to go ask a question like that. It was pretty funny, but because of the darkened windows, we were afraid that the police might pick him up, because in Minnesota, I guess that's illegal. Anyway, we loved him and we'll miss him. And I think that's it. Mark, anything more?
No, I think it's all good.
We're fine. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to have Christy Zimmerman, cousin and daughter of Lyle Zimmerman, and Arlyce's brother is Lyle. She's going to give her life tribute. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I just have a short story to share about Dean, which is in January, I was in San Francisco, if anybody remembers air travel. I was in San Francisco on a work trip and walking from my hotel to the conference center, and my phone rang, and I remember thinking, oh, Dean's calling. in the middle of the day on a Tuesday. What I wonder what it is. I wonder if something's wrong. And he was just calling to talk. Nothing was wrong. He just wanted to chat and say hello and say, how much he appreciated our relationship, and that he, would like for us to continue to be closer as cousins. And, over the years, as a card writer, I always wrote Dean cards. So I remember writing him a card earlier this spring when he was sick. And I guess I just want to say that I feel a lot of gratitude for, listening to those little nudges when you think, oh, I'm in the middle of the day, it's inconvenient to talk on the phone, but to pick up anyways. You never know when it might be your last phone call with someone. And if you, want to do something kind and extend some kindness, like sending a card, that those things always do a lot more for you, sometimes even than they do for other people. So I just always feel a lot of gratitude and smile when I think of Dean. So that's it. Back to you, Ted.
Thanks again. Okay, now Jeff Keeler, Dean's cousin, son of Lori Keeler, Howard's sister.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to give my condolences to Arlyce, Scot, and Dean's daughters, Jocelyn, Madeline, and Mya. We've all suffered a big loss. Dean is my youngest cousins with a 12-year gap in our ages. I have memories from over 40 years ago when Dean was a young boy and I stayed in Wheaton. I also remember when Dean was young and stayed with us in Two Harbors. As we do with old high school friends, family, or people that we share a core connection with, we are instantly reconnected, and those feelings of the past are brought back. It does not matter the years that have gone by. We are instantly joined with a common bond that cannot be broken. It doesn't matter what happened in the years since we last spoke, or the struggles we encountered, the joy and the sorrow we lived through. We are connected and we are family. I was reconnected with Dean just a couple of weeks ago. He asked remember about Wheaton. He wanted to hear about his dad and grandpa and grandma and all of the remember when. The trademark Dean ear-to-ear smile with a sparkle in his eye that always made me feel like he was hanging on to every word. But being the youngest cousin and the hardship of losing his dad so young, I felt like he cherished that connection to the past and was able to live vicariously by listening to the stories. Around me, Dean was always quiet, thoughtful, and considerate person. As we spoke, his words were kind, polite, and positive. Everyone in his life he had talked about, his coworkers, his supervisors, his bank customers, his friends, it was all about their goodness. He had spoke about a customer that had lost his business due to COVID and the positivity that he lived each day with. I could see this is where Dean was driving for himself. What made Dean shine was his love for family. Yes, it was talking about grandpa and grandma and his dad, but it was girls that really made him shine. In our conversation, he said to me, I have to brag about my daughters. He told me how well they were doing and how proud he was of each one of them, how smart and talented they were. He was a beaming dad and is excited for their futures. When somebody dies way too soon, we wonder what their legacy will be, what they will be remembered for. For me, I will remember Dean as a kind and caring person, and as a dad who loved his girls unconditionally. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Jeff. Now we'll hear from Al King. This is Dean's lifelong friend and from childhood.
Hi, everybody. I'm not very good at this type of thing. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, good. I'm not good at this type of thing either. Dean, the two things that I can say about Dean is he loved his girls beyond measure. I have 3 daughters, and every time I spoke with him, he asked me, what can I do to make my daughters be successful? And I just said, all you got to do is love them. And that's all he ever did. Every time I talked to the man, it was 100% about his daughters. And I don't know, they're going to have to really, really miss him. I don't know how, I don't know, sorry. The other thing outside of that I can talk about Dean is that kid could tell a story and make the simplest, dumbest thing into the biggest, awesome story with so many details out of nothing. You could have told it in 2 minutes, but it took 15 minutes for Dean to tell it, and there was no detail left out. I mean, the guy had a gift, and I just think I wish I would have recorded some of that stuff, because that is beyond all measures the most thing that I can think of Dean is his storytelling ability and what everybody will remember about him. And I don't probably want to share them with some of you guys, some of the stories I can think of, but he is he's very much going to be missed, and he's left a big hole in my heart right now. So very sad for you, Arlyce. I love you.
Thank you all. Now we're going to hear from Jay Seuss. This is another lifelong childhood friend of Dean's.
Wow. Yeah. Well, what Al said, I can tell you what, those stories that Dean had, I know for a fact. I don't know the details that he put into them or that Midwest draw, but those things took forever. But it was great because, Al, you're absolutely right. That thing could have been said in like 2 minutes, and here you are 15 minutes later, and you're thinking, my God, how much of this story is left? And you haven't even got to the most important part yet. But it was amazing, the stories. And he could remember. I'm old. I'm not quite as ugly as Conrad maybe, but I'm pretty close. But the stories, I forget some of them, but I can tell you what, Dean, he could remember anything. And some of the things were very impressive. And I know I tried to come up with something, and this year, I know Alone for Everybody has been a challenge with the pandemic and everything going on in the world, and a challenge for everybody. But to lose your best friend, a son, a brother, and a father, and a loved one to so many of us is absolutely crushing. Dean will forever leave a hole in my heart. And for so many of us, Dean was the bridge that kept us all together. When I talked to Dean, he was the bridge that connected me to Al, to Conrad, to Ben, to Todd, to all the people that I grew up with that maybe I didn't talk with regularly, but there was still that connection. And it was the stories like Al touched on that connected us, and the remember when would come up, and that remember when then led into these 15-minute long stories. So there was never a shortness of time. If you were back in the first times when we had cell phones, by God, you didn't want to talk to Dean because your minutes were gone in no time. Now, when you have unlimited minutes, it's perfect because you and Dean could carry on a conversation. We would talk for literally hour and a half. We talked forever. So Dean is the only person that I actually grew up with. I grew up with Al, I grew up with Conrad. I met Todd when Dean was at college, and then Ben when Dean was at college. But Conrad and Al, we all grew up together in Pierre. But Dean is the only one that I actually kept in touch with up until his passing. And he is forever going to leave us a hole in my heart and a lot of heartache for me, as well as many people here. I don't know how Dean and I came to be two peas in a pod and how we came to connect so closely, but I do know that as a young boy, I remember riding my mini bike and going down by Dean's house and seeing Dean tear around on his three-wheeler like so many people remember. And outside of their house, there was this dirt lot, and it had these hills, and it had dirt from when they probably did the construction of homes, and I think it was Neiman's, and they would just dump the dirt there. Well, of course, what do the kids do? They turn that into a recreational area, whether it's dirt bikes or three-wheelers or quads or regular bicycles. We found a way to make it our own. And so there was Dean on a three-wheeler tearing around on this rainbow side of this hill. And I remember watching, because Dean was, I think, 2 years older than me, but I remember watching these guys go on this rainbow on the side of this hill, and I was intrigued by it. But like you guys know, Dean loved anything that had a motor in it, whether it was a boat, a car. He liked bicycles. He loved his bicycles, but he liked things that go fast. That was Dean, right? So that was my experience with meeting Dean. Then he got the Pontiac Fiero. Now, at the time, the Pontiac Fiero was like the dream car for anybody because it tied all of us in that generation to Back to the Future, right? So Back to the Future with the DeLoreans, that's where everybody was like, whoa, this car is cool. And Dean had this Pontiac Fiero. Now, knowing what we know now, they're complete junk, right? Because they broke down all the time, but it didn't matter. It was the coolest looking car. The back opened up and everything, and it was cool. So we loved it. So I didn't know that all the repairs that it had to do, and Dean hated it, but he didn't have to pay for the repairs, but it was a cool car. Dean and I are literally probably the sole reason the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration did away with the old hand emergency brakes. Because as we grew up, any vehicle that had an emergency brake that was operated by hand during the winter, as we grew up in South Dakota, we found a way to make that car on the widest street where there was no other vehicles, make that car go in circles down the street by pulling that brake at about 30 miles an hour in the middle of winter. I'm certain that if the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration didn't do away with handbrakes then, when Dean was the best man in my wedding and he came to Hawaii, there was a Nissan Maxima that was a rental car. That rental car that we used and drove over in Hawaii, I can tell you it had a hand-operated emergency brake. If anybody is interested in a Nissan Maxima with a handbrake as an emergency brake, my pal Dean Vogel and I can attest that those are probably the most safe emergency-operated vehicles around, because we jake brake that car on every turn, around corners, around the freeway, and everything to make sure it was safe, of course. And that vehicle is probably one of the safest operating vehicles. Of course, I can tell you because we tried it and we tested it. So with that being said, Dean, he was a lifelong friend. We had lots of good times together. We have many stories such as Al and Conrad that we need to get together and we can laugh and reminisce over them. That there's not much that I can say about it other than we were kids growing up and we were teenagers and we had fun. And Dean had the heart of the biggest person that I know. He would always call and check in. He would always call and see how you're doing. And whenever I talked with him, the things that tugged on his strings the most were the challenges that he ended up facing in life and how to fix and how to repair some of those damaged things. And that song, If I Could Turn Back Time, I think Dean wished that he could change some of the things in life, because I know that there are 3 girls, Jocelyn, Madeline, and Mya, that he had so much love for, that I think he wished if he could turn back time, he would have changed a lot of things. The thing I know he wouldn't have changed was the amount of love he had for you girls, because I had 3 boys. And we always laughed about me having 3 boys and him having 3 girls and how opposite our lives were in that aspect. But Dean always marched forward, always tried to do the right thing, always tried to fix things and tried to be a better person and climb his way out. I hope now, and I know now, that he's in a better place. And I'm glad that he wasn't alone. I'm glad he was with family when the Lord took him. The rest of us may not like it. I don't like it. But I'm thankful that someday we'll meet again. Until then, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you, Todd, for being there.
Thank you, Jay. Now, Conrad Sweeney, lifelong friend of Dean's from childhood.
Hello, everybody. It's tough to follow 2 acts like Al and Jay, but I'm going to try. Yeah, everything was pretty much summed up. I will tell you what, Dean had the biggest sack of you-know-what when it came to riding that 3-wheeler. He was amazing, fearless. It amazed me. And to that Fiero comment, I know you guys have had to get in that car with 3 or 4 other people. It can be accomplished, believe it or not. Had a lot of good times in that car. Thanks for that memory, Jay. I think I met Dean around the 7th grade and started off a little shaky. And, I think we met over a girl. Sure, Al and Jay both know exactly who I'm talking about, but we won't bring her up. We both discovered that it was nonsense and how it started off shaky, and we have been friends ever since. That friendship transferred over into adulthood, and there's been periods of time where we didn't talk for a couple of years. Sometimes it was due to the military, just life in general, but we were always able to pick it back up and start a conversation, just like riding a bicycle. Like Jay said, I got a hole in my heart too. Yeah, I wished I'd have talked more, but at the end of the day, Dean's in a better place. And one thing I know for sure, and a lot of people have said this, is that Dean loved his family, his mom, his brother, and his 3 daughters. He would talk. To Jay's point, he could talk all night long to you. Sometimes to the point where you're like, hey, brother, I got to go to bed. So, but I wholeheartedly know, Jocelyn, Madeline, and Mya, that your dad loved you, wanted the best for you in everything you do in life. Todd, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Conrad. Now we're going to hear from Ben Catan, lifelong friend of Dean's as well from college. Ben, are you still with us?
Sorry, yeah, if for some reason, can you hear me all right?
We can, thank you.
Okay, yeah, it muted me there for a sec, but yeah, so it's too bad it's under these unfortunate circumstances, but sometimes, it's these things that bring people together, and the fact that Dean had so many people, clearly from everybody here and all the things that have been said today, that cared so much for him and about him. It's amazing how fast time flies. I mean, I met Dean in the early 90s back in college, and had an opportunity to get to know Dean and Stephanie. And, over the years, we were fortunate. We each took the time to connect and reconnect with each other over the years. Back in South Dakota, he came out and visited me in Dallas and Washington, and they got to meet the girls multiple times, on these different family vacations. And, those were just special times. I remember, getting to, spend those family time. And, then separately, when Dean and I would catch up on different trips, him and I, and just have some of these deep conversations with the extreme amount of details as you guys described. But, I remember a lot of those conversations fondly. And, it's those special times and all the fun trips, and those would be the memories that stick with me for, forever. We're fortunate to have a lot of those different good times and good thoughts. And, what I'd like to share with those girls who are on the line today is that, after, the separation, for Dean, money was tight for those early years. And what he did, and I don't think a lot of people knew, was the weekends that he had the girls, those were his very special times. He would talk to me the 3 or 4 days leading up to those weekends, and then the 3 or 4 days after the weekends, telling me what he was going to do with them. And then after those weekends, how it went. And, as we all know how cold the winters are back in South Dakota, because the money was tight, Dean would literally wear 3 jackets at night to turn off his heat to save his money, so that he'd have, extra money to spend with the girls, to do things with them when he would get to see them. And, that was just a tribute to Dean and his heart, and where, it was less about him and where his really focus was. And that was obviously the 3 girls. As everybody who knows Dean would know, that was his true priority in life. So just a real special individual who really had that aspect of his priorities first and foremost. But like all of you, it's definitely a hole that's going to be hard to fill. But, all the stories and memories, and hopefully Jay, Conrad, Al, all of us, we can reconnect. Just as you were saying, Dean was, the bridge that introduced all of us, because we all knew each other through Dean ultimately. But hopefully that bridge isn't lost, and we can, all of us, in addition to Arlyce and everybody, continue to stay in touch and not lose that bridge, and continue, tributes to Dean through the stories that we get to tell. So just good to see everybody here, and thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, now we can hear from Chris Davidson, another lifelong friend from college. Chris, are you with us?
If you're on the phone, you may need to hit *6 to unmute.
Should we come back to Chris?
I think so, yeah. we have somebody re-entering the waiting room. So let's see if that might be Chris calling back in. Chris, if you're joining us, feel free. It's your opportunity to speak.
Yeah. I think he's trying to do it from a flip phone.
And again, you may need to click *6 to unmute yourself. I think, Todd, if it makes sense, let's circle back, and certainly hope that we can connect with him.
Sounds good. Thank you. So next on the list would be Aaron Pesky, a friend from Sioux Falls area. Aaron, if you're with us, it's your turn.
Hey, are we on?
We got you. Thank you. Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, hey guys. So anyway, first of all, I just want to say it's nice to actually see some faces to some names. Or slow connection here, bear with me. Can we revert and go next? Hello?
Sure. That sounds good. Wayne and Kathy Hervey. And sorry, also lifelong family friends. Wayne and Kathy, are you there?
If you are, maybe try *6 again to unmute.
Christy, can you hear me? This is Arlyce. Why don't you just
I can
move through
Okay.
to Dave, and we can pick these kids up
Okay.
later.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, Arlyce. So Dave Keeler, cousin, son of Lori Keeler. This is Howard's sister, Lori.
Nope. We need you to try and unmute one more time here. You'll have to click again to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me? Okay, I can't hear you guys, but that's fine. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Dean was one of a cousin I got to know real early in life. The first memories of Dean was back in Wheaton when he was just a very, very small baby. But then, like my brother Jeff and my mom mentioned, where I really started to get to know Dean was at our cabin in northern Minnesota. And just remember that big, huge, infectious smile that he had. He would follow all of us around and, you know, didn't say boo. He was quiet, but not shy. He was just so happy to be part of, you know, the kids playing. And I'm 9 years older than Dean, so, you know, and I was the closest one there, but he was just always right there. We'd always turn around just to make sure that he was following us. And if you ever asked him, and I'm hearing from all the friends out there, he really told you how much fun he was having and what he really liked, and just super, super personable. And just that smile and laugh that came with that was just so beautiful. But the biggest thing to me, unfortunately, I haven't seen Dean much in the last, 30 years really. But what this whole group and everything says to me is how much family means. Just the last, his last couple of weeks up in Two Harbors and Duluth with family members, and then hearing from all of his friends, meeting him in Dallas and wherever they're at, and phone call to another cousin when she's in San Francisco. It's all about the family and friends, and that's really what's important. And like when Dean's father died when we were kids, Dean came and spent time with us. He was around family then, and he was with family, unfortunately at the end, and everything in between. It's all about the family and friends. That's who he was. And as everybody was saying here, Dean kept reaching out, and the most important thing in his life was his daughters, or is his daughters, and how he could keep touch with them and make their lives better. And that's what family and friends are all about. And, that's what I think of when I think of Dean. So, thank you very much for the opportunity. And Todd, back to you.
Thank you, Dave. Joe Nietzsche, this is Dean's cousin-in-law and husband of Jean Nietzsche, son-in-law of Dolores Weiss, Howard's sister.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Thanks for having me. As you said, I know Dean through marriage, and to say I was a close personal friend would be a bit of an overstatement. If you look at Dean as a circle of friends as an archery target, him in the center, I'd be on that outer ring. But I got to know Dean, it's been 40 years now with the family. And I go back to the first time I actually met him. We were going up to Minnesota to meet the extended family, the Keelers and the Vogels. Thomas Lake. If you've never been up to Thomas Lake, you cannot not have a fun time. But anyhow, that was the first time I met Dean. He was about 8 years old. And like David just mentioned, there was this little kid just hanging around, and he wasn't overbearing like little kids can be, but he just wanted to be part of the action. And I remember one time playing cards, and there's this little head at the end of the table, and all you can see is these big cheeks and this big smile. And that's pretty much Dean. Just good to be around. And again, this went on for 4 years at various family functions and such. And then last time I was able to see Dean in person was at Dolores and Bob's house for Thanksgiving about 3 years ago. And we had a pretty good heart-to-heart talk. And we actually talked in private since then. And I know we had some issues, but I think where people like Dean really get into trouble or they're vulnerable is he's such a good person that when he runs into people who might not be such a strong moral compass, he can get taken advantage of, or he's vulnerable. But what a great guy. It's been my pleasure to know him. And just in closing, I'd just like to say, if you're going to be at a wedding, Dean's a good guy to have at your table. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so Katie Willett, cousin, daughter of Lyle Zimmerman, Arlyce's brother.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity. So on the Zimmerman side, there was the 4 older cousins, Stephanie, Scott, David, and Dean. And then a decade later, my sister and I came along. And then a decade after us came our cousins, Ryan and Michael. So being a decade younger than Dean, I remember going to family functions, and there was these 4 older cousins who in my eyes were so cool and so amazing. And I remember looking up to each of them, but what sticks out to me about Dean is kindness. And I remember, I mean, this is one of my earliest memories, being probably 4 or 5 years old and going to Pier. Dean took me out, as you guys have mentioned. He liked fast vehicles, and so he took me out on a 4-wheeler, and I ended up getting my leg too close to the motor and getting a bad burn on my leg. But more than the pain or anything, I remember Dean's kindness in caring for me when I had that injury. And then fast forward a few more years, going back to Pier for Dean's high school graduation. And again, because he was one of these older kids and so cool in my eyes, I just thought it was so neat to see him with his friends. I remember coming to where he was hanging out with a bunch of his high school friends. And again, I'm this dorky 8-year-old, but Dean was kind and pulled me into whatever they were doing. And just, even though I was so much younger, he included me. And watching that kindness extend, one of my last really distinct memories with Dean is watching him as a new father with Jocelyn, and just getting to see him with his daughter, and just the kindness and the gentleness that he had towards this sweet little girl that he loved with everything. So as I think back on every memory I have of Dean, the overwhelming feeling I have is just this one of complete kindness and love for each person that he met. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jill Halverson, cousin of Dean's, daughter of Dolores Weiss, Howard's sister. Jill, are you with us?
Jill, it looks like maybe you might be calling in, I'm guessing. I don't see your name on here unless you're on someone else's Zoom account. If you're on your phone, press *6 to unmute.
In consideration of time, why don't you try to move to Bruce, and then we can come back to Jill?
Okay, thank you so much, Arlyce. Bruce Nason, cousin, son of Dolores Weiss, Howard's sister.
Bruce and Jill are together.
And do we know if they're calling in or if they are on video here?
I don't know.
Thank you for the information. We'll move on to Lauren Hudson, friend and Wells Fargo colleague.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to start by reading a poem. This is actually a pretty popular poem, but I think it's a really good one for today. So it's called The Dash. It says, I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For the dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left, and that can still be rearranged. To be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you lived your dash? And I think that Dean lived a really good dash. I worked with Dean, and his light was bright and his heart was enormous, and everybody's saying that, so it's very true. Dean wanted everyone around him to be happy, and the way he did that for me was talking about my boys and his girls and fulfilling my ice cream and cheese curds cravings when I was pregnant, and sharing parenting advice from when his kids were young. When my second son was born, this is just one of my favorite stories of Dean, but when my second son was born, Dean gifted us a bouncy seat. He said that he insisted that I have this bouncy seat because that was how he was able to get his kids to calm down when they were little, and that they just really loved it. But he not only gave a gift for my youngest, the one that was on the way, but he gave one to my oldest son because he was expecting his little brother and he didn't want him to feel left out. And he said that, when his kids were getting a new sister each time, he'd make sure to give them a little gift so that they would just remember, like, hey, life is different, but we still love you. I got to spend a little over 2 years with Dean, but I feel very lucky to have gotten to share 2 years with such a wonderful person. So thank you.
Thank you. Now, Brian Arve, friend and Wells Fargo colleague. Brian, are you with us?
There again, Todd, let's move so that we don't take people's time away from them, and we can come back to Brian and the others.
I do know Aaron Pesky has come back on, so he might be available now. We could possibly try to do that in between here.
Aaron, if you could share Aaron Pesky, friend from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. How about we try, I knew this name was going to give me problems. Gura Gafar?
Guria Gafar.
Sorry. Okay. Ida McCarver. Ida is a friend from Wells Fargo and a customer of Dean's.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Yes. First of all, I want to thank Alex so much for giving me this opportunity. I don't know what I would have done if I had walked in Wells Fargo and found out Dean wasn't there anymore. Thank you so much, Alex. I just want to share with you guys that I met Dean about 2 years ago, Wells Fargo, and he gave me the best customer service that anyone can give customer service. I have been in customer service over 50 years, and it's hard to find good customer service. Dean gave me good customer service, a big smile, he was just so good that I would wait in line just for Dean to wait on me. And it was a habit of me going in there every Thursday, because I always said, I go in the bank on Thursday, get money for chicken wings and gin, right? So Dean was like, oh my gosh, you look like you have so much fun. I sure wish I could go with you sometime. So I was like, okay, one day you're off, let's go have some chicken wings. So he never got that Thursday, but I had a birthday. So I invited Dean to my birthday party. And when I invited him, he was like, oh my God, this is such an honor. Are you serious? So Dean came to my party. We had such a great time. He danced, he ate, and we talked. And I mean, he still, last time I seen him, he was talking about that party. I loved him so much. And again, thanks, Allison, for inviting me to come on and do this. And I have just a little thing that describes Dean to me. I mean, it's just Dean. I'm not going to take up a long time because it takes a while. We've been on it for a while. But this is Dean to me. Your smile is your logo. Your personality is your business card. How you leave others feeling after an experience with you became a trademark. That is Dean. And again, Alice, thanks a million for allowing me to do this.
Thank you very much. Kim Evans, friend of ours.
Todd, before you go on, I'm going to put this up so you can see me, but Ida had glasses made for her 70th birthday, and she gave this to everyone. So Dean got as good as he gave.
Oh my gosh.
That's great. Okay.
Wow.
Kim Evans, friend of Arlyce.
Okay. Oops, I'm here. Am I here?
Yes, Kim, we can hear you.
Hello. Hello?
Yes, Kim, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? Oh.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Arlyce's co-worker and friend, and Dean became my friend 2 years ago. He promised me a dance. Okay, so from listening to everybody and knowing Dean the last 2 years, I felt like I know him a whole lifetime. He did, when you meet him, he had that warmth in his heart and you feel it. I felt it. I know it. I just wish I had my dance with him. And I appreciate, Arlyce, you inviting me to this. And I love you, dear.
And Dean thought, yes, and Dean thought the world of Kim too, because they always talked about going to the public market for a meal. Kim, we can't hear you anymore.
Yeah. When they think about him, you just...
Kim, you're cutting out.
Unfortunately, I think we lost Kim. Thank you so much, Kim. I'm going to move on just for make sure we get everybody a chance to speak. Cameron Reeves, friend and Wells Fargo colleague.
Todd, Cameron was supposed to be with me at my apartment this evening, and he hasn't shown up. So we'll skip him, but let's go back and see if we can get Aaron and Chris Davidson and Wayne and Kathy Hervey and Jill and Bruce.
For sure. So let's go back to Chris Davidson, colleague or college lifelong friend. Are you with us now, Chris? We'll circle back. Aaron Pesky, friend from Sioux Falls. Are you with us now, Aaron? How about Wayne and Kathy Hervey, lifelong family friends?
Todd, we also skipped my brother-in-law, Keith, and Keith's on the line. Let's go with Keith right now.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Keith Christensen, uncle, and Arlyce's
brother-in-law.
Sorry.
Am I ready to go?
You're good.
Okay. First off, I'd like to say it's really heartwarming to hear from all the good friends that Dean had. I didn't know the depth of the feelings amongst his friends, and I think it's wonderful. I am Arlyce's brother-in-law, and my memories of Dean are all from his young years. Unfortunately, I haven't spent time with him over the last 20 years, perhaps. One of my first memories of family visits was back in about 1974. We were living in Devil's Lake, North Dakota, and Howard and Arlyce and the boys came to our place, and it was a big snowstorm, and we were living in a 900 square foot house with no basement, and there was 4 adults, and as my wife Arlinda said, 4 wild kids. And it's a good thing that mothers gave birth to kids, because I think fathers would eat their young. We had a snowstorm, a bad snowstorm, and to even let Howard and Arlyce and the boys out, we had to remove the window from the door so we could get out to shovel to open the door. The following year, also in Devil's Lake, they were with us for Christmas. And Stephanie, my daughter, was excited for them to come, and she was standing in the picture window looking out, and she hauled, "They're here, they're here. Skeen and Dot are here." Anyway, we had a wonderful time. Years later, and I don't know where it was, but Dean probably was 15 to 17 years old, and I learned firsthand what a good storyteller he was. He could, and the more you laughed, the more stories he told. And I would have to say that he's probably the best storyteller that I have ever met. And again, 2-minute stories that took 15 minutes, and I wish they'd go 15 minutes more. Another memory I have is my son David and Dean, who are within months of each other age-wise. Dean was staying at our house, and they were fighting downstairs and tussling, and I heard them banging around, and I went down and I said, "Guys, I'm trying to sleep. Stop." Well, I didn't learn until maybe a year, maybe 2 years later, that during their scuffles, they had kicked a hole in a wall that was into the furnace room. So when you went in the furnace room, you couldn't see it. But my son David managed to, I think he repaired it with poster board and painted it, and I didn't notice it for several years. It looked good from the outside, but when you got behind the furnace, not so good. The last memory I'll share with you is when Jocelyn was born, and David and his wife Darcy were living in Sioux Falls, and we had a large family get together at David's place in Sioux Falls, and Jocelyn was just a little tiny baby, and Dean, I've never seen quite as protective a father as Dean was. He was very concerned she could be bounced around and hurt, that he was kind of like an old mother hen. But with that, I'd like to end. And again, I'm very encouraged and thankful for all the friends that have spoken on about Dean. And I would like to say Godspeed, Dean. And with that, I'll sign off.
Thank you, Keith. How about Jill Halverson? Has Jill Halverson, cousin of Dean, made it in yet?
I don't see Bruce and Jill on anything unless it's just a phone number.
And again, if it is a phone, call *6 to mute and unmute yourself.
So Chris Davidson, Wayne and Kathy Hervey, Jill Halverson, Bruce Nason, Brian Avera.
Todd, I can see that Aaron is on the Zoom call now. If you want to turn it to Aaron, that's great.
Aaron, I see also that you're with us. Would you like to unmute and share? This is Aaron Pesky, friend from Sioux Falls.
From Sioux Falls. Hi, everybody. You know, glad to be here and glad to see some faces, just some names. Sorry about the technical difficulty. Just wanted to weigh in. I'm gonna do it quickly before I lose connection again. But it's great to see these people here. You know, I'm not the best or most eloquent with words. However, people have actually covered a lot of things that, you know, Dean, yeah, this is difficult. Dean has been such a good friend to me over the years. How do I start? I met him about a decade ago, and it was through kind of a dark time. He was kind of going through the DUI thing as well as I, and going through divorce also. And so we could relate on that tip, I suppose. But yeah, I didn't prepare much. I just wanted to say, you know, if there's a person that's been a very good friend. Again, I'm not much for words, but I wore this. You know, you talk about a guy who can give you a shirt off the back. This is Dean's shirt, so wearing it here now. Yeah, it's difficult, but I got to pass it back to you. It's difficult. So, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Arlyce, can you see anyone else that hasn't been able to speak that would like to?
Hey, this is Judy. Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
Okay. Dean's on, of course. Just a very, very quick thing. So when Howard died on December 6, 1982, I was with my mom and dad when they found out, and we went down to Pier. And I remember the biggest memory, and this includes you, Katie. I heard Dean say, "Who's going to fix my sleeping bag now?" I think it was a sleeping bag zipper or something. And all these years later, that is the biggest memory I have of that day, is hearing say that. It broke my heart. And Katie was just this little one at the time. I'm trying to remember. I think she was about a year or so old. And Katie was such a sweet little girl. And during this extremely sad time, she just brought a lightness. You had to smile when you saw her. She was just a blessing to have. And I'll just say, Dean, your dad can fix that zipper now. Or you can scold him for not being there for him. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Judy.
Todd, I believe Cameron is on the line, and also Skylar would like to speak.
Okay, Cameron. Cameron Reeves, friend and Wells Fargo colleague.
Hey, Todd. The biggest thing of what I want to say about Dean is that I really wish that for the brief amount of time that I knew him, I wish I'd have gotten to know him a little bit more, because he was just such a kind, sweet, great human being. Dean was so much fun. I remember me and him went axe throwing. We also went bike riding, and he was just such a kind heart. I loved being around him, and every day going to work, I just knew that he was just going to be so much fun to be around. I really miss Dean. I honestly don't have too much to say, but I just, he will be very missed, and everything about him was just too much fun to be around, and he was such a kind heart. But that's all that I really have to say. He'll be very missed, and this is awesome that we put this together. Really a celebration to him and his life.
And by the way, Cameron is the one that Dean would ride bikes with this summer, so he appreciated that.
Thank you so much, Cameron. And Skylar.
Todd, let me introduce Skylar. Skylar is a co-worker of Dean's, and they work pretty much side by side. So Skylar, take it away.
Thanks, Arlyce. And actually, before I worked with Dean, I got the privilege of being his customer at Wells Fargo because I've banked there since I was young. So I got to know Dean way back when, like Ida said, when you would walk in, it was just a huge smile, and he'd say, "Skylar, how are you?" And, he would take care of my transaction. And then when I became part of the teller team, he just welcomed me right away. And like I said, with a smile, with helpful hints and all this stuff. And right around the time when I started working there, going back to the fast cars and all his craziness, one time on a snowy day, he came into the parking lot. I was already in the building, and he drifted into the parking spot next to mine. And of course he comes walking in. "Did you see how cool that drift was? That was so awesome. That was so cool." And of course I'm being my sarcastic self, "Dean, you almost hit my car." But of course I laughed because I know that it was awesome knowing my brother, cars and stuff. Like, that drift was very awesome. But I did get the opportunity to spend time with him a couple weeks ago, and I was calling my bakery that I like to go to, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna put in an order." And he's like, "Tell me more." So I told him about this, and then he called Arlyce, and he's like, "Mom, Skylar's saying this bakery is just like the one in South Dakota. Like, I gotta go. So we went together, and I was technically on a short time slot, but I just knew I had to stay because we got to sit down, we got to eat our ham and Swiss croissants, and then we went walking around Cedarburg, which he never done before. And all he did was talk about, oh, I wanted to buy this for my mom. It was a Himalayan salt lamp, and there were various things for both. Brenna, he really wanted to buy, our manager, and Lauren, our other manager. He was like, oh, Brenna would love this. Lauren would love this. And the last thing he always talked about on our outings with Guria or with the team or just him and I, it was always about his daughters and how much he loved them and how much he missed them and how he was excited for when he would see them next. And, that was all that he was. He loved his daughters most of all, his daughters and his mom, but his daughters were the thing that kept him going through the day. And I want, that's like the main thing of Dean is his smile and his love for his daughters. And that's the end of it.
Skylar, thank you.
Yeah.
So, Arlyce, is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Yes, Mya would like to speak, but I'm going to tell you first that Guria was the person who made the gifts that Dean took to you, Mya, Madeline, and Jocelyn. And so she's the artist that made those vases for you. Mya, it's your turn now.
Okay, thank you. I just thought that it meant a lot to me that everybody came together and that we all got to do this. And it was a lot of fun hearing all those stories about Dad, and just meant a lot. Thank you.
God bless you, girls. He loved you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to say something before we sign off here tonight?
Yes, can you hear me? This is Jean Ann Korst.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, great. I'm going to swipe and see if I or see something now well, that's okay. If you can hear me, that's good. I didn't know Dean, but no, not really, but I met him once, very briefly, and just as I was passing through with my son, and then I've spoken to Dean, and this has been maybe 5 years ago, commencing 5 years ago. I could be a little off on that, and then every now and then we would talk on the telephone briefly. Just when Dean maybe get a hold of my son, it wasn't a real big conversation having to do so much with me, but I wanted to share that just one of the last things that Dean did before he died was to restore my son to me. A few weeks ago, I was awakened in the middle of the night, and it was Dean on the telephone. I'd spoken to Dean enough to know that gentle, I was struck immediately upon meeting gentleness and his sweetness. So I knew who was talking to me, but he introduced himself to me that night anyway, but I knew who it was. And he was talking to my son, and my son was having a very, very hard time. Arlyce had been on the phone too. And while I was sleeping, you guys were on the telephone with my son from here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You guys were in Milwaukee. And I just wanted to share that with everybody. I'm just astounded. That was a big night. That's why I think it's so epic, because I really didn't know Dean, except for those few encounters. But then night that he called, it was very important. And the Lord put Dean there. He put you, Arlyce, and Dean there to help my son in a very, very tough time. And then Dean, you guys got a hold of me, and I was able to go too. And I think that we're going to be amazed. You'll make sure that you're going to be able to dwell with the Lord in heaven forever, because we want to see Dean. Same with me. We want to see Dean, and I think we're going to be astounded at all the things that the Lord saw that we didn't know anything about. And mostly we'll be there giving glory to God for knowing what's going to happen, what has happened, and what will happen, and that he put you guys where he put us all where we are. And so to carry out his purpose, to serve him. And it sure sounds like that's what Dean was all about, and as gentle and kind as he was. And I could tell that he sounds right to everybody. And I am thankful to God for that kind of a witness that he gave. He's precious. I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you for letting me be a part of his memorial. We want to give God thanks for Dean. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So
you bet.
Before we close, I would like to actually say a little bit. I haven't really spoken about how I knew Dean. Dean and I did meet in college, but we never had any classes in college together. We actually worked together. He got a job at the local lumber yard where I worked, and so we were coworkers. And I thought I was going to have this profound thing to talk about as far as my favorite thing about Dean, and it was his detailed stories. And it sounds like everybody had the same profound thought. But I enjoyed my time with Dean so much that every time we were together, time flew by. And whenever you're working, that's something that's a great thing. And after he moved from the Black Hills area, I stayed in this area, and he moved away. And we would talk on the phone for hours. Unfortunately, not as much as I would have liked, or probably that he would have liked. But I just am going to miss Dean tremendously. And I've had the pleasure of meeting his girls, and I know he loved them with all of his heart, and his mom, and I know that he really appreciated his mom in their relationship, and so that was what I wanted to end my part of this with. I know, Arlyce, you're going to speak now, and I wanted to just turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And now
Arlyce?
Yes?
Before you speak, I would like to say something real quick.
Absolutely.
Okay, hold on. For those of you who don't know, because I'm not on the schedule, my name is Deborah Lynn Swanson. I'm a co-worker of Arlyce's. And as I've been listening for the last little bit for the memorial for Dean, it triggered a memory for me. And I would like to give this to Arlyce and his family and his girls. It's a poem by Mary Elizabeth Fry that she wrote in 1932. It says, "Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am in 1,000 winds that blow. I am the softly falling snow. I am the gentle showers of rain.
I am the fields of ripening grain. I am in the morning hush. I am in the graceful rush of beautiful birds in circling flight. I am the starshine of the night. I am in the flowers that bloom. I am in a quiet room. I am in the birds that sing. I am in each and every loving thing. I do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there, for I have not died. So I want to give this to his family because of hearing all the wonderful memorials and memories that you have, that understand that even though his physical body has gone to ash, he's still with you in everything, every day. It's yours, Arlyce.
God bless you, DL. I appreciate that. For those of you who don't talk to me on the phone and haven't heard me say this, I wanted to leave you with one thing. I am a woman of faith, and therefore, what I'm telling you, I want you to really pay attention to, and that is that I have felt your prayers, all of your prayers, just like I did when Howard died, because I've described it before, and I'm sorry I'm crying, but I've described it before, and I'll say it again for those of you who have heard it. I have felt as if God had put me in a cocoon with my whole body in a cocoon, and I could see trouble coming in my pathway. And before I got to it, and it's happening again now, before I get to that trouble, it's either swept away from my path by somebody else doing something for me, or when I get there, it's something I can handle. So if you ever doubt the power of prayer, think of me and what I just told you, because it is the most powerful thing you can do. So when you ask someone, what can I do for you? And they say, just pray for me. It's not just pray for me. It's really pray for me, because that's the best medicine there is. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that over the last 3 weeks, there's a song that my mom and dad used to sing in a duet. And the song goes, "This world is not my home. I'm just traveling through. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what shall I do? The angels beckoned me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore." And that's how I think Dean is handling it now, because when God called him, he said yes. And Howard and my mom and dad and Howard's parents were right there to welcome him to heaven. I'm done, Todd.
I'm Elsa Keeler. I'm Jeff's wife and Lorraine's daughter-in-law. What a beautiful, beautiful evening, and beautiful tributes that have allowed us to go full circle. And I think clearly each of us have a part of Dean in us that we can take away. So let us pray together. Holy God, we are so grateful for this time tonight. People bound together because we have known and loved Dean. We honor his memory. We know that grief does not end. And we ask tonight, as a wide collective, that your grace and your peace will continue to uphold Arlyce and all those who mourn through this time and every day to come. May your spirit bring comfort through the words spoken and love shared tonight. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Elsa. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Cameron, for helping to make today very, very meaningful, and the technical issues that you've all worked through is amazing. Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Okay, let me tell you that this is going to be recorded. And Christy, why don't you follow up now and say what you are going to do with the recording?
Sure. The recording is in the cloud on Zoom, and I'm going to attempt to upload it to YouTube. It will likely be the speaker view that I had, which I attempted to have be full screen most of the time while I wasn't trying to chat or re-invite different folks along the way. So there might be a few things there where the screen changes instead of being on you during your tribute, only because I was trying to get everybody in at the same time. So we'll get that uploaded and made available to everyone. I will send it to Arlyce if she has all of your emails, and we can make that available to you.
Thank you, Christy.
Thanks for setting this up, Christy.
You're very welcome.
Good to see you and Katie, Christy. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.
I
Thank
also
you,
want to
guys.
say it's really good to see you, all of you who I haven't seen in so long, and even those who I've seen recently. It's really heartwarming and healing to see all my family here today.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Arlyce, for letting me be part of this evening.
Oh, Karen is my cousin. Thank you, Karen.
I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you, Arlyce. Good night. God bless.
Thanks, Jean Ann.
Thank you, Arlyce.
Thanks.
Thank you, family and friends. It would be great to celebrate life other than at times like this over Zoom in the future. Great to see all of you, family.
Thanks, Eldon. Thank you, Eldon.
I have to say this before I go. I think of this: we all fall short of the glory of God, and we're all human. And yet, I think of what I hear of Dean is what I knew of him as well. And I think of love and joy and peace, patience and kindness and goodness and gentleness and faithfulness. These are gifts of the Spirit. You know, we can not listen to the Spirit and not have those gifts, but Dean had those, and I think he was blessed. As you said, his heart was in tune. He had his demons and devils to cope with. We all do, but with the Almighty, we persevere and find our way home. And so, I'm inspired by his life.
Thank you, Eldon.
God bless.
Arlyce, I have to say, I'm actually more of a person for words. I get a little verklempt, but yeah, I just want to say have a good night and love you very much. And we'll chat soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Christy?
Yes, I can end for everyone. I just don't want to cut anyone off. So if you like, Arlyce, I can stop recording and leave this on if anybody wants to chat for a few minutes. But I can stop the recording part of it if you like.
Well, just let it run for just a second. I can't see Chris Davidson or Jill or Bruce. So I don't believe they were able to join us tonight.
Yeah, I'm not seeing them either. I'm seeing the Herveys have a tile up, and I've tried to message them and unmute them, but it seems like perhaps it's not connecting to them.
Yeah. Yep. I don't see them on a text message or anything for me. Just a minute, I'm getting one in. Nope. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. All right. Good night, all. Thank you.
Love you, Arlyce.
Love you all.
Love you, Arlyce.
Love you.
Good night,
Bye.
Arlyce.
Good night, Arlyce.
Good night. God bless you.
This has been a beautiful tribute. Love you, Arlyce, and I'm glad that you thought to do this. For me, it was a real treat. I thank you, and Christy, thank you for getting this up. Good night to you.
No, it was interesting during a pandemic. My church would not have allowed a service at all. We're still not back in church. So
Thank you for inviting me, Arlyce.
Steve Whitaker, God bless you. Thank you for being there.
Well, God bless you, sweetie.
Yeah.
Arlyce,
Thank you, Christy.
Arlyce,
Yes.
it was so good to see you. I just never talked to you.
No. We never do Zoom calls as a family. That's an interesting way to do it.
No, but did you get my joke? We never
Yes.
talk.
Yes, right.
Right.
We talk
Bye.
about 3 or 4 times a day for everybody else's benefit.
Okay.
All right. Good
Bye.
night. I'm going to hang up and have a good night. Call me if you want. Otherwise, until we meet again. God bless you.
Before you run, well, it was good
Okay.
to see all these good-looking kettling women. Even if-
Oh, yay. Hey,
Nice to
and
see you.
for you guys who went to Black Hills State, I had to wear this sweatshirt tonight because this says Black Hills Mom. So all you guys from Black Hills State, it's for your benefit. And once again, I'll show you Howard's picture up here on this wall behind me. Arlinda painted that picture for us after Howard died, and it's him on his motorcycle with his helmet and his leather jacket. And I still have the leather jacket. So, Connie and Marvin, it was good to see you too. So,
All right.
good night.
Good night.